will be lots of times when you're doing math and you need to find the slope between two lines, or between 2 points. So there are multiple ways that you might have these 2 points, like maybe someone just gives you points and says, hey, 1 comma -1 and 3 comma 2. What's the slope between those? Or maybe you're looking at a table, right? These are the same points, 1, -2, 3, 2. I've got these 2 points, and I need to find the slope between them. And really what that means is like, hey, if you made a graph, and I'll give you a little sneak peek, this is basically the graph of those 2 points. I've got 1, -2, and 3, 2. And if you want to find the slope, you're looking for rise over run. But let's say you're too lazy to make the graph. You need to do rise over run without the picture. That's all right. We can do that. To find the rise, well, rise is all about y values, right? So if we look at the y values here, we start down low at a y value of -2, and we go up to a y value of +2. And if we were doing rise over run, we would be counting, okay, how many hops up is that? Well, in order to do it mathematically, we essentially, to find the distance, how far apart two things are, we want to know how far they are. What's the difference between them? A difference just means subtract. So to find the rise, if we're doing our slope, we use m for slope, slope is equal to rise over run. So in this case, the rise is just going to be this minus this. The second y value minus the first y value. Sometimes we give these names and say like, hey, the second y value minus the first y value. We'll call that like y2 minus y1. That's just fancy math way to say, okay, 2, that's the second y value, minus the first y value means minus -2. So 2 minus -2. And then we do the same thing with run. Run is all about the x values. So you say, okay, well, it's the second x value minus the first x value. The second x value is 3 minus the first x value is 1. And so when you get to the end of this, you say, okay, well, 2 minus -2 is just 4, because that's really 2 plus 2. And on the bottom, 3 minus 1 is 2. And so our slope, our final answer, 4 over 2. If you want to be fancy, you can simplify this and say, okay, 4 divided by 2 is really just the number 2. So you could also say that your slope is 2. Either of these would be a correct answer. If you're working with a table, there is kind of a nice way to show the work here, which is you can sort of look at the rise and look at the run as the change in the y. So the y goes up by 4 and the x goes up by 2. And then you're just doing the same thing, right? 4, the rise, divided by 2, the run.